we did that trip 11 years ago, one of the people that was involved was a student who had written a lot of term papers and stories about the history of the civil rights movement. She's joining me here today. Kachet, wonderful to see you again.
It's great to see you too, Bob. How are you?
I'm doing really well, and I was telling everybody, you all look as young as you did then, and I'm the one that looks like Santa Claus.
I love it. I told you, it's that sparkling water daily.
I think it is. It's working for you. Hey, listen, tell us a little bit about what you've been doing since you graduated.
Wow. I was just thinking about that, and I have my diploma right up here in my office. It's been about 11 years, and, graduating right in the recession was obviously, it came with its own challenges, but I found some amazing internships and started my career actually in advertising, more in a client services role. And I was doing that for several years for agencies until about 5 years ago when I went out on my own after an unexpected layoff. And since then have been doing marketing consulting on my own, social media management, marketing strategy, influencer marketing, kind of through Kachet Media Group. But that's just one arm of things that I've been up to. While I was working for an agency, I needed to get this creative juice and, energy out somehow. I was very, out and about in college. And when you kind of transition to professional life, you can be in your desk from 9 to 5. And while you have a collaborative team at work, you might still need a little something extra. At least I did. So I started blogging. I started a lifestyle and fashion blog called The Lipstick Giraffe, which has since rebranded to The Kachet Life as I got older and started monetizing that. But I've been doing that for about 8 years. So with that layoff, it also was very a great way to put more eggs in the blog basket. So now I kind of divide my time between consulting clients, blogging, and fusing kind of both worlds into coaching people who want to start their own, take their side hustle full time, or start their own business and or become a maker or jewelry maker or photographer, whatever passion that they want to take for profit. So
very cool.
It's been amazing. I'm very blessed. I will say through COVID-19 and just 2020 getting off to a really interesting start, I've been contacted a lot for coaching and support and accountability groups. So that's how I've been dividing my time over the past few months.
That sounds fantastic. And you are in Dallas, Texas, as we talk?
Dallas, Texas. Yes, I moved here in February of 2020. So up until this time, I was in Sacramento, which is where I was living after graduation. That is my hometown. So the Californian is in Texas and doing as well as we can, given the state of our society right now.
I'll probably be in touch with you down the road as we get close to the election of 2020. But let's think back. Let's think back 11 years to when you came back from that trip, that incredible trip across country that Dr. Cheers and I put together. What were your takeaways from that trip? What do you remember about it?
I'm gonna have to start from the beginning, just like that feeling that I got once that plane landed in San Jose, and we had to quote, go back to life as normal or get back into our routine. And it didn't feel real. It felt almost like I had been transported somewhere in the past, that I had these amazing, unique experiences and conversations, not only with the people that we all met at every stop along, Education on Wheels route, but also the camaraderie and connections that I made with my teammates or my classmates or trip mates, whatever you would call them, my family, it just, to be able to experience something like that with people from all walks of life that you maybe don't know as well beyond just passing through, passing by in the hallways, all the way to like people you've cried with, you've broken bread with, you've, again, been witness to some very moving situations. I think that when I came back, I definitely had a renewed sense of purpose and self. A lot of things that had been, secondhand taught to me through my family's experiences were things that I was able to experience on my own and see and have a little bit more context for that. In a way, I felt even like I had maybe a leg up on some other people my age who may not even be thinking about this, those sorts of the movement or sorts of people that are still left behind from that. For me, it changed my life. It's something that I often talk about, that I reference pretty regularly. Anyone who comes into my life and stakes a claim has to watch the documentary DVD. You know, I did a lot of on-air appearances in Sacramento for my personal brand, but I have to give shout out to San Jose State for giving me the opportunity of a lifetime to be interviewed live on CNN, you know, at a very young age. For that, the confidence booster, and just seeing how even just that moment and how it, you know, I guess impacted my trajectory was amazing. I just, living history, you can't beat anything like that. And we're living through history now. So, you know, the first group I thought of as, you know, news was unfolding about Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd was my inauguration group. I was like, we got to get the band back together. Because
well, Michael Cheers and I were thinking the exact same thing.
I love it. See, that there was magic there. There was change and progress. And I would even just say, shining a light on something that people, we all have gotten complacent and thinking it happened so long ago. And it really wasn't that long ago. It's been a lifetime. I mean, Bob, like you've lived through some of these times even, you know, so it's not that far from us. And it really isn't far now, because it's happening now, and things are changing every day.
And we're hoping that this will be a prolonged effort and a consistent positive experience for the country to grow in this new approach to thinking about racism. But do you still have hope? Do you still believe, from the trip and now in 2020 as we take this, do you believe that there will be significant change?
I think there will be change so long as conversations keep happening, so long as people are able to humble themselves a little bit and check their bias, even if they don't think they have bias. We all have a certain amount of it, whether that is just through life experience, things that have been passed down through us. I'll even say, though, there's even pieces of defensiveness that are carried through generations, hearing through stories from my mother, from my grandmother over the years. You know, my own checklist when I am walking down the street, going on a road trip alone, you know, even as I conduct myself with business. So those are things that we have to talk about, realizing that they will most likely be uncomfortable. We may offend, we may get it wrong, but in the beauty of getting it wrong, we're able to be our authentic selves. We're able to see others for who they are, look at the facts, the feelings, and do something about that. You know, some people may even say that they're not racist, and I will wholeheartedly believe them. But what piece of that is anti-racist? Are you sitting in a room while people are making comments that make you uncomfortable, but you don't want to piss them off or rock the boat or do anything? You know, you're just going to let that one slide. Is rock the boat season. There's no more letting things slide. Right. We all have to do what we can each day to impart change. That might be calling out BS as we see it. That might be providing resources to people. You know, as a blogger and influencer in the online space, since I've been shifting my messaging more to, granted, I talk about lifestyle and home design and all of that too, but as a Black woman, there's no way I can't talk about how my life experience has shaped who I am, the decisions that I make, and even how I show up online for my audience. And I think through that strength and being able, again, to talk about it, you get people thinking, you know. I want to say it might have been Will Smith. He might have gotten the quote from someone else, but they're saying violence or racism isn't getting worse. It's just getting recorded. I think there is something to that as well. You're seeing it. You can't unsee. So now that you've seen it, what will you do? That's kind of been the question I've been asking people in my circle.
And what would you say to police officers who say those are a few bad apples, that is not the majority of the police force, and the camera can distort? Maybe the camera is not telling you the whole story.
Right. I mean, maybe the camera isn't telling you the whole story, and maybe those really are some bad apples and you are a good cop. However, the system needs to be looked at. I would say that it's broken, and you know, even conversations that I had on the trip, a lot of the police officers in the South were members of the Klan. Like if you look for decades back and back, I'm not saying that's the case now, but I am saying that systemically there's a history rooted with law enforcement and racism. You can't deny that. So I think you can't just brush it off and say there's a few bad apples. We have to look at the history, look at the pain, and again, impart change one by one.
When you were in school, you wrote a lot of essays about the civil rights movement. You were face to face with that movement on the trip. It was very emotional for all of you. Do you liken that experience to what we had in 2020, turning on television news and seeing that officer's knee on George Floyd's neck as he's asking for help, talking about his mother and asking and saying, "I can't breathe"?
That was that was like the call for his mother was the call heard around the world in my brain and in my heart. Like I said, we were already a little bit more, I'd say, sensitized, given that we've been sheltering in place. We've been home a lot. We've been able to identify personally what's important, what's not important, for forced intersection, you know, like all of that. So there's already that personal awakening, whether you're wearing a mask or you're not. Your life has changed drastically because of COVID. And I'm not trying to compare the two, but I'm saying being that sensitized, I wouldn't say desensitized, and watching that video, I think the combination between the awakening of people who are on the go, 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 go. Everyone's always so busy. They can't stop and do this. I don't have time for this. You know, there's never enough, people say there's never enough hours in the day. Now we have too many hours in the day, right? Some might argue. Watching that video for 8.5 minutes was absolute agony. It was disgusting. I didn't want to watch it, but I had to watch it, if you know what I mean. He's pleading. He's not resisting any longer, yet the knee's still on his neck. There is a first responder for the city of Minneapolis saying, "Hey, I'm in, the industry too. This is not cool. She's recording. Take this up, remove. I need your badge number." No one's moving, unaffected, sheer hate, or just zoned out in this man's face. That is 1963 Birmingham to me, from the footage we've all seen, from the conversations that we had when we were in Birmingham. It was, yeah.
It brings that moment right back to life again.
It brings that moment right back to life again. But I don't want to say for real, but in real life for us, this next generation, for everyone who was on Education on Wheels. For me, I've seen footage, but when you're like, "Oh, this happened yesterday," right, it does something different to you. You can't unsee that, and you can't allow for that to be. At least I can't. So I've been using my voice the best way that I can to try to impart change.
And what a great voice. I must say, you're a great classroom speaker, and you're good on Zoom as well. As you know, we're going to get everybody together. Dr. Cheers and I are going to get all of you together, as many of you that are available, to do a roundtable discussion. What would you want to say at the end of this interview right now to the group? Because we're about to do that group meeting pretty soon.
Oh, man. There are just so many memories in the van alone. Like, I ended up finding some old notes I wrote and quotes that people said. So I just am I the only one who remembers these things, or does everyone else remember? I'll never forget, like, in the early days of GPS, like, we were trying to find something to eat, and we ended up at someone's front door, like their house in Atlanta. And I'll just never forget, Dr. Cheers was like, "Are we at someone's house?" And I'm like, "I don't know what happened. I just put it in my BlackBerry, okay?"
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, it's too much. But anyway, there was just a lot that happened. And even just, again, some of the parts that made us uncomfortable. I would love to talk about that now that we are older and have been living and experiencing these things. Because even as a Black woman in the advertising world, there aren't a ton of people who looked like me, you know, back then. There weren't a ton of people. I was the only Black person in my 50-something person office the entire time I was working for other people. So, you know, if I were still working in advertising, and maybe I will go back one day, you know, I do feel like we need to see who from the trip wants to start the revolution with me.
Sounds like you're the person we should nominate. But listen, Kachet, thank you for doing this. And I understand you are engaged, living in Dallas,
I am.
and moving on with your career. So congratulations from San Jose State University.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you so much.